The most popular drain remedy in this country is two products destroying each other inside your pipe. You dump in the baking soda, you pour the vinegar on top, and it foams up over the drain like a grade school science fair. But nothing is happening down there. Those two just canceled each other out and left you with salt water. Today, I am ranking all 4 cheap cleaners in your cabinet by the job each one actually does. Stay to the end for a cheat sheet you can screenshot and the one situation where all 4 are wrong. So how does that happen? How do 4 products that genuinely work end up with a reputation for doing absolutely nothing? Because everybody is asking the wrong question. People walk into this wanting to know which one is strongest. Like these 4 are lined up in a bracket competing for the same title. They are not competing. They are 4 completely different chemistries, and each one has a job it is genuinely good at and jobs where it is useless. The reason your last attempt failed is almost never that you picked the weak one. It is that you picked the wrong one for what was actually in your pipe. I want you to think about the toolbox under your sink for a second. Nobody argues about whether a screwdriver is better than a wrench. That question does not mean anything. You reach for whichever one matches the fastener in front of you. Same deal here. So I am not going to rank these by muscle. I am ranking them by job, worst to best, and by the end you will know exactly which box to reach for without thinking about it. And I want to say something about why that wrong question got planted in your head to begin with. Because it is not an accident, and it is not a conspiracy either. It is just economics. There's no money in prevention. Nobody films a commercial for a $5 box of laundry powder that stops you from ever needing a plumber, because there is no margin in it and no repeat business in it. The money is in the jug on the drain aisle that promises to fix everything in 15 minutes. And the money is in the service call you place when that jug does not work. So the entire conversation you have been handed is about which product is strongest, because strongest is what sells. Nobody ever framed it as which product is correct. That framing does not move units off a shelf. The trade knows this, by the way. Ask a plumber what is under his own kitchen sink at home, and you are not going to find a jug of the red label stuff. You are going to find a box from the laundry aisle. Let us start with the one that wins the most common problem in an old house. Washing soda takes first place, and it takes it on grease. This is the box in the laundry aisle. Sodium carbonate. Around $5 for a 55-ounce box at most grocery stores. And that box will last you a long time. Do not confuse it with baking soda, and I promise we are coming back to that difference, because it is the whole reason one of these works and the other one does not. Here is what makes it the best pick for a kitchen line. Washing soda dissolved in water gives you a solution with a pH around 11. That is alkaline. Not violently so, not the scorched earth chemistry you get out of a jug of lye, but alkaline enough to do something specific and useful. When that solution sits against a grease deposit, it runs a reaction called saponification. That is an old soap-making word for a simple idea. It turns fat into soap. The grease stops being a sticky, water-repelling plug clinging to the inside of your pipe and becomes soap. And soap dissolves in water and rinses down the line. Think about a roasting pan you left on the stove overnight, with a little dish soap and hot water in it. In the morning, The baked-on stuff wipes off with a sponge. Nothing scrubbed it. It just sat there long enough for the chemistry to work. That is exactly what is happening in your drain line, and it is why the clock matters more than the strength. That is also the single biggest reason people conclude this stuff does not work. They pour it in, they give it 20 minutes, they run the tap, and the sink is still slow. So they write off the whole approach and go buy something harsher. But the powder was never the thing that failed. The clock was. You gave a slow reaction, a fast window, and then judged it on the result. Which brings me to the part everybody gets wrong. Saponification at pH 11 is a slow reaction. It needs hours, not 15 minutes, not the time it takes to make coffee. Hours. So the way you use this stuff is you bail out any standing water first so you are not diluting it. You put in 1 cup, you chase it with 2 or 3 cups of hot tap water, and then you leave that sink alone overnight. Hot tap water, by the way, not a rolling boil off the stove. Your white plastic drain pipe starts to soften around 140 degrees, and boiling water is over 200. There's no reason to risk a joint for heat you do not need. Now, what about hair? Because in a bathroom sink or shower drain, grease is usually not your problem. Hair is, and hair does not saponify. It just sits there. So the order matters. You pull the mat out first with one of those cheap barbed plastic strips, the kind that runs $2 or $3 and slides down through the drain opening, and then you run the washing soda behind it. Here is why that combination beats either move on its own. A hair clog is not pure hair. It is hair bound together with soap, scum, and body oil into something with the consistency of wet felt. You pull the bulk of it out mechanically, and then the washing soda dissolves, the greasy binder still coating the pipe wall. So the next few hairs that wash down have nothing left to catch on. And once that line is running clear, the real money is in keeping it that way. Half a cup down each problem drain once a month. Chase with hot tap water, last thing before bed. That is 30 seconds of your evening, and something like 50 cents of powder. Do that, and the buildup never gets a foothold, which is a very different proposition from waiting until the sink quits on you and then fighting your way back. The manufacturer prints septic safe right on the box, which tells you plenty about how aggressive it is. It also lists it as an eye and skin irritant. So wear gloves and keep the treated sink out of service overnight with kids and pets away from it. That is the whole method. 1 box, 1 cup, 1 night. And that is the strongest tool you own aimed at the most common problem you have. Quick pause before number 2. If this is useful to you, I put 100 of these fixes into a book called 100 Old House Fixes that save you thousands. A lot of it is about telling a cheap patch from a real repair and what to ask a contractor so you are not nodding along blind. Link is in the description, or scan the code on screen. All right, so here is where the ranking gets interesting, because number 2 is not a powder at all. Vinegar takes second, and it takes it on mineral scale. Plain white distilled vinegar, 5% acetic acid, $3 to $4 for a gallon jug. And this is a specialist. If you live in a house with hard water, and roughly 85% of American homes do, then you have a completely different enemy than grease. You have lime scale, that chalky white crust building up on your shower head, crusting around your faucet aerator, wringing the inside of your kettle. That is calcium carbonate precipitating out of your water and hardening onto everything it touches. Now, here is the chemistry, and it is the cleanest bit of chemistry in this whole video. Calcium carbonate is alkaline. Acid dissolves it. When acetic acid hits that deposit, it converts the insoluble calcium carbonate into calcium acetate, which is soluble, plus water and carbon dioxide. The deposit stops being a rock stuck to your fixture and becomes something that rinses away. It is the same reaction you would see if you put a drop of vinegar on a piece of chalk. Chalk and lime scale are chemically close cousins. The method takes about a minute of your time. Fill a sturdy sandwich bag with undiluted vinegar, pull it up over the shower head so the whole faceplate is submerged, and tie it on with a rubber band. Leave it 4 hours or overnight if it has been years. Take the bag off, run hot water through for a full minute to flush the loosened grit out of the internal passages, and give the rubber nozzles a rub with your thumb. Aerators come off the end of the faucet with a pair of pliers and a rag to protect the finish, and they soak in a coffee cup on the counter. But I need to give you the limits on this one, because vinegar has real ones. It is an acid, and it does not know the difference between the scale you want gone and the surface underneath. Keep it completely off natural stone. Marble, limestone, travertine, granite. It etches them, and that damage is permanent. Go easy on plated finishes like brass and old nickel, and do not leave it sitting for days on rubber seals or a thermostatic valve. Short soaks. Repeated, beat one long, punishing one. Coming in third, borax, and it earns its spot in a place hardly anybody thinks to use it. Borax is sodium tetraborate, the box with the mule team on it. And I need to correct something on price right away, because the number floating around out there is stale. Depending on where you shop, that box runs anywhere from about $6 up to $8 or $9 at a regular grocery chain, cheaper at the big box stores. Not a huge expense either way. But I would rather you hear the real number from me than get surprised at the register. Where borax genuinely shines is porcelain, that stubborn ring inside a toilet bowl in a hard water house. You knock the water level down in the bowl with a few pumps of a plunger so the ring is accurately exposed. You sprinkle borax around it, and you let it sit overnight while nobody is using that bathroom. In the morning, it comes off with a brush instead of a fight. It also works as a laundry booster, which is what the box is actually sold for, and it deodorizes. And here is where I have to be straight with you, because this is the one people get wrong most often. Borax is the weakest of these four inside a drain line. It is not a scale dissolver. It sequesters minerals, meaning it grabs hardness ions and holds onto them so they cannot lock together and deposit. That is genuinely useful in a washing machine. It is close to useless against a grease plug in your kitchen trap. If somebody told you to pour borax down a slow drain, they were guessing. Its label reads about the same as washing soda. Septic safe, eye irritant, harmful if swallowed. Keep it away from children. Which leaves baking soda in last place. And I want to be fair about why. Sodium bicarbonate, $1 or $2 for a 1-pound box. And it is in every kitchen in America. Its pH is around 8.3. Now, that number probably does not sound very different from washing soda's 11, but pH runs on a logarithmic scale. Every single point is a factor of 10. So washing soda is not slightly more alkaline than baking soda. It is around 1,000 times more alkaline. That gap is the entire difference between converting grease into soap and just sprinkling powder on it. So baking soda is not going to strip the film off the inside of your pipe. It never was. What it is genuinely good at is absorbing odor and working as a gentle abrasive that will not scratch a sink basin or a glass cooktop. Both real jobs. Neither one is a clog. And now let us go back to that volcano, because you have earned the explanation. When you pour vinegar onto baking soda, you are putting an acid and a base together. They react with each other. That is what the foam is. Acetic acid plus sodium bicarbonate gives you sodium acetate, which is a salt plus water plus all that carbon dioxide gas rushing up out of the drain. The fizz is not scrubbing. The fizz is the sound of two cleaning products erasing each other. Once it settles, you are left with dilute salt water sitting in your trap, and you have spent both boxes to get there. And I do not blame anybody for believing it. The demonstration is genuinely impressive, and it has been passed around kitchen tables and comment sections for decades. When something looks that dramatic, your gut tells you it has to be doing dramatic work. But the drama and the work are two different things here. All that energy you are watching rush up out of the drain is energy that left the reaction instead of going into your pipe. I want to be clear that the mess is convincing. It looks like work. It sounds like work. But whatever cleaning power those two had individually, they gave up the moment they touched. If you want the grease gone, use the alkaline one by itself. If you want the scale gone, use the acid by itself. Never together, and never in the same pipe on the same day, because the leftovers from the first treatment will neutralize the second one just as thoroughly. Now, the safety rules, and these are not optional. Never mix vinegar with bleach. Not in a bucket, not in a drain, not in a toilet bowl. Chlorine bleach plus any acid releases chlorine gas, and even low concentrations will burn your eyes and throat and start you coughing. In an enclosed bathroom with the door shut, higher concentrations do real lung damage, and at the top end, it kills people. Public health departments put out warnings about this every year because it keeps happening to people who were just trying to clean a bathroom. Same principle with hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. Kept in separate bottles, they are both fine. Combined, they form peracetic acid, which is a genuine irritant to skin and airways. So do not premix them into a spray bottle and leave it under the sink because you saw it on the internet. And here is the payoff I promised you at the top. There is one situation where all four of these are the wrong answer, and it is the most common situation people are actually in when they go looking for a home remedy. Standing water. If your sink is holding a full basin that will not go down at all, stop. Do not pour anything into it. The reason is simple. Every one of these four works by chemical contact with the deposit. A pipe full of stagnant water dilutes whatever you put in until it cannot do anything. And it never reaches the blockage anyway because the water is already in the way. So the powder sinks, sits in the standing water, and does nothing all night. Worse, if you have already tried a commercial chemical cleaner in there, now you have a basin of caustic water that somebody has to reach into. A full stop is a mechanical problem, and it wants a mechanical answer. A plunger with a good seal on the drain. A cheap plastic barbed strip you push down and pull back to grab hair. A hand crank drain auger, $20 or $30, that reaches into the trap. Pull the trap off with a bucket underneath, if you are willing, because that gray clay-looking mass in the bin is the actual clog 9 times out of 10. The prevention is what saves you the money, and that is the whole argument for keeping these 4 in the house in the first place. In 2026, a plumber coming out to clear a drain averages around $246, with most jobs landing between $147 and $352. A simple sink or tub clog runs $100 to $275. Most shops charge you $60 to $150 just to show up and look. Call on a Sunday night and that whole bill runs 1.5 to 3 times higher. Against that, a $5 box of washing soda used once a month is not really a cost. It is the cheapest insurance in your house. So here is your cheat sheet. Screenshot this part. Grease and soap scum means washing soda. Mineral scale and hard water crust means vinegar. Stained porcelain means borax. Odor means baking soda. And standing water means none of the above. Go mechanical. 5 lines, and they cover almost everything that goes wrong with a household drain. Notice that 3 of those 4 boxes live in the laundry aisle and not the drain aisle. That is not a coincidence, and it is worth sitting with for a second. The stuff that actually works on your pipes was never sold to you as a drain product, which is exactly why nobody in the trade ever bothered to point you toward it. That is the ranking. If you want the rest in one place, the book is 100 Old House Fixes that save you thousands. It has the room-by-room checklist and the seasonal calendar I use, and most of it exists to keep you from paying for a visit you never needed. The link sits in the description, and that code on screen goes to the same place. And if you want more old house fixes that keep money in your pocket, subscribe to Roger the Pipe Guy. Go check what is under your sink tonight. If 3 of these 4 are missing, you are one grocery run from handling almost anything your drains throw at you. See you next time.